promised to follow the rules. He promised to be respectful. Lies. First came the secret girlfriend, then the doubled utility bills I was paying, then the complaints about loud, late-night parties. But the ultimate slap in the face? Driving to my property after a neighbor called, only to find my key useless in the lock. They had dared to lock me out. Looking back, this entire nightmare spun out from a single, seemingly innocent request. A phone call from my mom asking for one small family favor. My name's Lily, and pushing 30, you'd think I'd have mastered predicting my mom's phone calls. That particular Tuesday, though, I was just enjoying a rare day off, sprawled on my couch scrolling through streaming options when her name lit up my screen. I braced myself. "Hey, Lilybug, how are you?" Mom's voice dripped with that familiar honeyed sweetness she reserves for needing something. "I'm okay, Mom. Just relaxing. What's up?" I knew it was coming. "Well, sweetie, a tiny favor. Your brother Kevin just left his place. Lease ended, money's tight." I sighed internally. Kevin, my 26-year-old brother, floated through life, jobs, and relationships, always with an excuse. "Mom, get to the point," I said, already picturing it. "That old apartment you got from the divorce with David," she chirped. "It's empty, right? Maybe Kevin could crash there? Just for a little while, until he's back on his feet." That apartment was my financial lifeline, my plan to offset the hefty mortgage on my new condo. "Mom, I need to rent that out," I reminded her gently. "I know, honey, but it's family. He needs this." The unspoken guilt hung heavy. "Fine." After a long pause, the word escaped me. "Okay, temporarily, I mean it." Before I could add conditions, she gushed thanks and hung up. Later that week, meeting Kevin there, I laid down the law. No moving anyone else in, keep it clean, no loud parties, and ask before getting any pets. He just nodded easily. "Got it, sis." Perfect tenant. For the first few weeks, I kept a close eye on things, determined that, temporarily, wouldn't stretch into forever. I'd swing by the old apartment after work, without calling first, using my key to let myself in, ready to catch any rule breaking. Surprisingly, Kevin seemed to be holding up his end of the bargain. The place wasn't spotless, but it was definitely acceptable. No overflowing trash, dishes mostly done, his few belongings relatively contained. There were no signs of secret roommates or wild parties. He even cooked pasta for me one night when I dropped in unexpectedly. "See? Told you I'd grown up," he said with a grin as we ate. I had to admit, I was cautiously impressed. Maybe Mom wasn't entirely off base this time. When I went over to my parents' house for our usual Saturday dinner, they were practically beaming. "It's so wonderful seeing you two getting along," Mom said, passing the green bean casserole. "Family helping family, that's how it should be. We're proud of you, Lily." Dad chimed in. "Kevin says you've been great, really supportive." That warm feeling of parental approval, something I hadn't felt much since the divorce, started to melt my vigilance. After about 2 months, with work picking up steam and a new guy I was seeing taking up my time, I eased up on the surprise visits. I'd still call Kevin now and then. "Everything good over there?" "Yep, all good, sis. Clean, quiet, no issues." He'd chirp back cheerfully. I started to actually believe him. That blissful ignorance shattered one Tuesday evening. I suddenly remembered leaving some important tax documents in the filing cabinet tucked away in the spare bedroom closet at the old apartment. Needing them for a meeting the next morning, I drove straight over after work, not bothering to call Kevin first. Why would I need to? As I approached the door, I could hear loud music thumping from inside. Weird for a Tuesday. I rang the bell, waited, rang again. Nothing. Figuring Kevin just had headphones on, I used my key. The sight that greeted me froze me in the doorway. A young woman I'd never seen before, wearing only one of Kevin's oversized band t-shirts, was dancing around my living room. Her eyes widened in shock when she saw me, then immediately narrowed. "What the hell? Who are you? Why are you breaking into our apartment?" She practically yelled over the bass. "Our apartment?" Before I could process, Kevin burst out of the bedroom, clad only in boxers, his face instantly falling when he saw me standing there. "Lily, I didn't know you were coming by," he stammered, eyes darting nervously between me and the girl. "Clearly," I managed, finding my voice. "Who is this?" The girl crossed her arms defiantly. "I'm Tiffany, Kevin's girlfriend. Who are you?" "I'm Lily. I own this apartment," I stated firmly, turning to Kevin. "Care to explain why you moved someone in without asking, breaking rule number 1? He winced. "Look, she needed a place, her roommate situation." "For a month?" I pressed. He nodded sheepishly. Against my better judgment, facing his pleading eyes and Tiffany's glare, I sighed. "Fine, she can stay, but the other rules still apply. My generosity, or maybe just sheer stupidity, was rewarded almost instantly with regret. Letting Tiffany stay felt fundamentally wrong the second I walked out that door, practically shooed away by her condescending smirk, and things predictably spiraled downward from there. A few weeks later, the utility statements for the apartment landed in my mailbox. My jaw literally dropped. The electricity and water usage had nearly doubled compared to any previous occupancy, even my own. I called Kevin immediately, fighting to keep the rising anger out of my voice. "Hey, have you looked at these utility bills? They're astronomical. What exactly is happening over there?" There was a telling pause on his end. "Well, Tiffany, she really enjoys, super long baths, you know? And she insists on keeping pretty much all the lights on all the time. Says she needs the brightness." I squeezed the bridge of my nose, forcing myself to take a slow breath. "Kevin, I am the one paying those bills. That increase isn't sustainable for me." I know, sis. I'm really sorry. I'll definitely talk to her about it, okay? I promise," he rushed out. But his promise felt flimsy, weightless, just like countless others before. Predictably, barely 3 weeks after that non-solution, my phone vibrated again. This time it wasn't my mother. It was Mrs. Garcia, the kind, quiet elderly woman who lived across the hall from my apartment. "Ms. Lily, forgive me for calling." Her voice was soft but strained. "But the noise. The parties from your apartment. Very loud, Ms. Lily. Many nights now. Very late. Many different people." I apologized profusely, promising swift action, even as icy frustration churned inside me. The secret roommate, the doubled bills, and now disruptive parties. Every single rule meticulously broken. Mrs. Garcia's call was the absolute final straw. Apologizing to her for my brother's behavior ignited a cold fury within me. Unauthorized roommate? Fine. I'd swallowed that pill, however bitter. Skyrocketing utility bills I was stuck paying. Infuriating, but perhaps manageable with strict budgeting elsewhere. But blatant disrespect for the neighbors, turning my property into a late-night party zone after explicit rules against it. Unacceptable. The very next day, I left work precisely at 5, bypassing my usual gym stop, and drove straight towards the old apartment complex, a storm brewing inside me. This time, There would be no more placating, no more second chances. I parked aggressively and marched up to the 3rd floor, my footsteps echoing my resolve in the quiet hallway. I knocked sharply, then leaned on the doorbell, letting it buzz longer than necessary. Silence from within. Just like the day I found Tiffany. Annoyance flared, but I still assumed they were just ignoring me or had music blasting again. Fumbling slightly with irritation, I inserted my key into the deadbolt. It slid in, but wouldn't turn. I jiggled it. Nothing. I pulled it out, checked it. Yes, definitely the right key, and tried again, slower this time, putting more force behind it. Still stuck fast. A wave of disbelief washed over me, quickly followed by sheer, unadulterated rage. I stared at the lock, then at the familiar grain of the wooden door. My door. My lock. My apartment. They wouldn't dare. But they had. They had actually changed the locks on my property without my permission, effectively barring me, the owner, from entering. The audacity was breathtaking. Standing there, locked out, a plan began to form amidst the fury. I wasn't leaving. I went back down to my car, found a spot with a clear view of the entrance, and settled in to wait. Almost 2 hours crawled by before I finally spotted them strolling towards the building entrance, laughing about something, completely oblivious. I slipped out of my car, followed them into the lobby, and rode the elevator up in tense silence right behind them. As Kevin fumbled with the new key at the apartment door, I stepped forward. Kevin. He jumped, spinning around, his face blanching when he saw me. Tiffany just looked annoyed. "What are you doing lurking here?" she snapped. "We need to talk," I said, my voice tight. "About why my key suddenly doesn't work anymore." Kevin shifted guiltily. "Lily, I can explain." "Inside," I insisted, pushing past Tiffany's glare into the apartment. It was messier than ever. Empty takeout containers and beer cans littered the coffee table. "Why?" I demanded, turning to face them. "Did you change the locks?" Before Kevin could stammer out an excuse, Tiffany stepped forward, arms crossed. "I didn't like you just walking in whenever. It's invasive." She then pulled a folded paper from a drawer. "Here." "What's this?" I asked warily. "Rules." She smirked, shoving it at me. "If you want to visit your apartment." I unfolded it, disbelief turning to cold fury as I read. 3 days' notice required, no visits after 7 p.m., no discussing bills. I needed to buy them new furniture because mine was supposedly old and ugly. Something inside me finally snapped. A strange, icy calm settled over the rage. "You have 1 week," I said, my voice level. "Pack your things and get out." Their smugness evaporated. "What? You can't!" Tiffany shrieked, grabbing my $300 ceramic vase from the shelf and hurling it to the floor where it shattered spectacularly. "1 week," I repeated, ignoring the shards sparkling at my feet. "Touch anything else, and I call the police for property destruction." I turned and walked out, leaving the sound of Tiffany's continued screeching and Kevin's feeble attempts to calm her echoing behind me. My hands were shaking slightly as I walked back to my car, not from fear, but from the sheer adrenaline of finally standing up to them, and meaning it. I hadn't even pulled into my own condo's parking lot when my phone rang, Mom's name flashing predictably on the screen. Deep breath. "Hello," I answered, bracing for impact. "Lily, what on earth is wrong with you?" She launched immediately, no preamble. "Kevin just called us sobbing. How could you just throw your own brother and his girlfriend out onto the street like that?" "Mom," I started, keeping my voice steady. "They changed the locks on my apartment without asking me. Tiffany smashed my property and handed me a list of demands for visiting my own place. "Oh, I'm sure there's more to it," she dismissed instantly. "You know you tend to barge in." Dad's voice came on the line then, heavy with disappointment. "Your mother and I are very upset, Lily. After everything we've done." "What exactly have you done, Dad?" I interrupted, the dam finally breaking. "I bought my own condo. I'm paying the mortgage. I let Kevin stay rent-free and he repaid me by letting his hostile girlfriend take over and lock me out." "That Tiffany seems like a sweet girl," Mom insisted ridiculously. "Kevin says you've been nothing but difficult. Ever since David left, you've been so bitter." That did it. "This isn't about David," I practically shouted. "This is about Kevin disrespecting me and my property. You always enable him." I ended the call, turned my phone off completely, and just sat there, letting the wave of anger and hurt wash over me. No more. I wouldn't answer their calls again for a while. The following week crawled by, punctuated only by the incessant buzzing of my silenced phone. Kevin left increasingly desperate voicemails, alternating between indignant anger and pathetic pleading. Mom and Dad sent texts dripping with guilt. I deleted them all, unread, my resolve hardening with each ignored notification. Instead, I confirmed my legal right to reclaim my property and scheduled a locksmith for precisely 1 hour after Kevin's deadline on moving day, just in case. When the day arrived, I took the morning off work and drove over, heart pounding slightly, unsure if they'd actually be gone. Kevin answered the door immediately, looking utterly drained, his eyes red-rimmed. "Almost done packing," he mumbled, refusing to meet my eyes. I nodded stiffly, stepping past him into the chaos. Boxes, bags, and loose items were strewn everywhere. Tiffany, radiating hostility, was practically throwing clothes into a suitcase in the bedroom, acting as if I were invisible. "Going to Mom and Dad's," Kevin replied quietly to my obligatory question about their destination. I suppressed the tiny, misplaced pang of guilt. As they finally shuffled out, defeated, Tiffany stopped, turned, and with a final glare of pure contempt, threw the keys onto the filthy floor near my feet before stomping away. Kevin just mumbled a weak apology for the vase and followed her. Left alone amidst the wreckage, grime caked onto bathroom fixtures, mystery spills staining the carpet, scuff marks scarring the walls, overflowing sinks, and something truly horrifying cultivating in the fridge. I knew the cleanup would be brutal. 3 days of intense work, professional help for the worst areas, and a new living room carpet later. The cost to undo their temporary stay hit just over $1,500. With the apartment finally scrubbed clean and the locks securely changed, again, I focused on my original plan, finding a reliable tenant. I took flattering photos, wrote a detailed listing emphasizing the rules and expectations, and meticulously vetted every applicant. Within a week, I signed a formal lease agreement with Dr. Evans, a quiet, responsible medical resident starting at the nearby hospital. Handing her the keys felt like a genuine victory, a return to normalcy and sensible adult transactions. As predicted, the rental income started flowing in, providing the crucial buffer I needed for my condo's mortgage payments. It felt incredibly validating. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. I threw myself into work, started a pottery class I'd always wanted to try, and reconnected with friends. The peace was palpable. No drama, no unexpected demands, just my own space and my own rules. Then, about a month after Kevin and Tiffany's eviction, my phone displayed a call from Mom. I hesitated, then answered cautiously. Lily. Her voice trembled slightly. I owe you a huge apology. My eyebrows shot up. Amber is... well, she's taken over the guest room. She's demanding. She leaves messes everywhere. She told your father he can't watch his evening news because it bothers her. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sounds familiar, I commented dryly. We were so wrong, honey. Can you please talk to Kevin? Maybe convince them to leave? We're at our wits' end. I let out a short, incredulous laugh. Mom, you wanted them there. You enabled this. This is your problem to solve now, not mine. She was quiet for a moment. Will you at least come for dinner Saturday? I'll think about it, I replied coolly. But I'm not fixing this for you. Hanging up, I sat on my condo couch, letting the conversation sink in. There was definitely a certain grim satisfaction, a sense of poetic justice in Mom and Dad finally experiencing Tiffany's true colors firsthand. Maybe now they understood why I'd had to draw such a hard line. While part of me wanted to hold on to my anger, letting them stew in the mess they helped create, another part recognized this might be a turning point, a chance to rebuild our relationship with actual boundaries this time. I decided I would go to dinner, not to rescue them, but to establish those new terms. Because the biggest lesson here, boundaries are absolutely essential, even, especially, with family. Enabling bad behavior, like my parents did with Kevin his whole life, only leads to more problems down the road, often for the enablers themselves. You have to protect your peace, your finances, and your self-respect. Kindness doesn't mean being a doormat. So, if you're dealing with something similar, remember, set clear expectations up front. Don't ignore red flags, and never feel guilty for saying no when your limits are being crossed. What do you think? Have you ever had to set tough boundaries with loved ones? How did it turn out? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And if this story resonated with you, please give it a like, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe for more real-life stories.